All right, Mr. Chair, you are live.
Okay. I'm seeing the city of Annapolis. I guess we can start talking. I guess am I looking at a share screen from City of Annapolis, Madeline, or?
I'm not sharing my screen.
Okay. All right. It must be just a minute. No problem. All right. Let me go ahead and call to order the meeting of the Board of Port Wardens on Tuesday, June 24th, 2025 is called at 7:02 p.m. In attendance, we have Mike Meekins from the city. We have Harold Siegel, Jared Lerner, the Port Wardens, Jonathan McCopp, sorry, and Scott Anderson. And we also have from the city, Carrie Berger, the city's attorney, as well as Kimberly from the city, and Madeline, who's doing the AV for us. So thank you very much. The approval of the agenda. Before we do that, I need to have a motion and a second to be able to alter the agenda because we need to remove Port 2025, which was originally on the published agenda as the first new item business. That application was withdrawn for tonight's meeting because it was incomplete in some way. So they had to sort of, we're going to be removing it. So can I get a motion and then a second?
Make that motion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Second.
All right, and I guess that was Harold, I believe, who seconded that. All right, so we will all in favor of amending the agenda to remove that particular port number. Please state aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. That was all. Every one of the port wardens voted that way. It was unanimous. So that motion passes. All right, the next item on the agenda is of course, the approval of the agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Lerner. Seconded by Mr. Anderson. All right, all those in favor, please state aye or yes to accept.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Aye.
Okay, all right, that was unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, under administrative, next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the May 27th, 2025 meeting. If I can get a motion and a second for the approval of those minutes.
Motion to approve.
All right, Mr. Siegel, thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Lerner, thank you very much. All right, all those in favor, please state aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. That was unanimous. Motion passes. All right, we have no findings of fact for this meeting. There also is no old business, and we are, of course, going to skip through that first one that we have amended off. So let's go to Port 2025 Tecumseh Condominium Council of Co-Owners at 312 Severn Avenue. It's basically a partial depth concrete repair work on concrete beams under the main level of the condo building. They're installing a cofferdam and draining the marina in order to complete the work in the dry. Marina will be returned to existing conditions after project is completed. Can I have Madeline, if you could bring in all those parties that relate to this particular application?
Matt and Taylor, you need, I'm sending a prompt to your screen to come on as a panelist. You need to accept it so that you can turn your audio and video on. Okay, I'm resending it to Taylor. That should be everyone.
Okay. All right, let me see. Okay, so we have, if all the parties who are going to be involved with this Port 2025-00007 Tecumseh, if you all can make sure your cameras are on for me. All right.
I do apologize ahead of time. My camera is actually not working on my computer. So sorry for any inconvenience that'll cause.
Yeah, it's hard to swear you in if that doesn't work.
Understood. I think Sarah and I are both with the same company, so she can speak on our behalf and her camera's on.
All right, Sarah, let me.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let me go ahead and swear you in, and we'll go forward. All right, if you could raise your hand. All right, thank you. Anyone planning to testify, please raise your right hand. Wait, you do solemnly swear to or affirm under the penalty of perjury that testimony you're about to give to the Port Wardens is the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
All
I
right,
do.
thank you very much. As a preliminary matter, the board will accept into the record the application packet and the staff report and any public comments. Would the city's staff person, which is Mr. Meekins, if he can please basically, we'll accept the application packet and staff report and public comments. Is there any extra element, Mr. Meekins, that you'd like to present? Any additional information or written staff reports, things like that?
No, not necessarily. I would just like to add that the property was posted, newspaper ads ran, and the mailings went out in a timely manner. Everything else is pretty much per my staff report, and if you are going to look for nuts and bolts and details, the applicant's going to have to shoulder this one because this is in my mind, a pretty unique situation. So that's all I have to say, really. Okay.
All right. And we will face this once or twice again. All Portlands were because there are more than just one building that are semi-built out over the water on pilings that have to address this every 20 years in some form or fashion. All right, so let me go ahead, and the applicant or consultant who's going to testify, which I believe is Sarah, correct?
Yes,
right,
that's correct.
Sarah,
Yep.
if you could give a brief description of your qualifications that are relevant to the application. It doesn't have to be too entailed. Go ahead.
Yep, I am the project manager for structural. We are a concrete repair company, and we were brought in last year to do an investigation, and we've been working with the Tecumseh board to come up with a repair plan, and we will be executing that repair plan on the building.
Okay, fantastic. All right, if you can, I guess, go ahead and present the game plan and the application, that'd be great.
Yep. So our plan is to drain the marina in order to be able to complete the concrete repairs in the dry. So we will be installing a aqua dam, a large water bladder, draining the marina to fill the aqua dam, and any extra water will go back into Spa Creek. Once it's drained, we'll be able to access the underside and fix about 3,500 square feet of concrete repairs on the beams. They are not apologies. They are not bulkhead. They are just beams supporting the building. So we'll be repairing them in kind, no enlargements, no encroachment on the existing environment. And then we will put everything back at the end as it is now.
Okay. All right. And what rough timeline, just out of curiosity? I mean, obviously the sooner, I'm sure, the better for the tenants, but
yes.
What is the rough timeline?
We are looking at starting mid-July. That is dependent on the remaining permit items coming through. And then we're looking at about a 6-month time frame. Okay.
All right. And you're based on the permits, when are you hoping to get started?
Mid-July, mid to late July.
Okay. All right. Okay. I guess, do we have any public testimony on this?
There were no public comments. I meant to say that. I don't know if anyone here, if Madeline has anybody in the waiting room.
I do not.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Obviously no rebuttal if they're to the applicant at this point. Again, the only question I asked was the time frame. Like I said, I think it's a project that the Port Wardens will see again, and it's I know that's the way to sort of handle it versus a whole series of divers. I guess I don't really have that many questions related to this. What is the lifespan, just out of curiosity, of repair like this once it's done in a perfect world?
Yep. So we are utilizing sacrificial anodes when we are placing the concrete back to add that additional time frame, similar to what gets added to a boat sometimes. So we're looking at about a 20 to 25 year lifespan of these repairs.
Okay. All right. Do any of the other Port Wardens have any questions?
Question. Will there be any dredging?
Nope, we are not doing any dredging. The only soil we may be readjusting is around the beams to fully access them, but we are not doing any major alterations of the soil as it is now. We're just getting the water out and getting to the beams.
Okay. Jonathan?
That is like the current status of the concrete on these beams. Is this minor, just maintenance type repair, or is there structural dissonance?
Yep. So during our investigation, the building is stable right now. There are no concerns as far as that. This is really preventative maintenance. The board took some time and really invested in doing this investigation so we can understand the full extent. We all know, we've seen on the news different situations in other states where there have been issues. So this is a proactive measure to really increase the lifespan of their building.
Any other questions from Port Wardens?
If you do discover anything after removing all the water on is that something that they have to come back to us to reapply and or change their method, or once we approve now it's done?
So if
You
that
know,
question,
if they find a structural issue once the water is removed?
So let me give you my layman's answer, and that is we would have to wait and see if they are going to drastically change the methodology for what they're doing. I would imagine that there would be a revision; it would come back. But you know, at this point, it's pretty hard to tell. Although it sounds like Sarah from Structural, they did they investigated this prior to formulating their plans. So hopefully, fingers crossed, and I'm sure fingers crossed on her end and Matt's end, no change.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions from Port Wardens? All right. Okay, it seems like all questions have been asked. We're going to go ahead and I declare the public hearing on Port 2025-0009. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not this. This is 0007. Tecumseh Condominium Council of Co-Owners at 312 Avenue is closed. So we can go ahead and deliberate. You know, as far as Title 15 goes, the coffer dam is within the footprint of their marina, right? And so the fact that they're not going to have use of part of their marina is not it's not doing anything to external navigation, to anything related to harbor line. They're not doing anything related to the lateral line. I assume they're going to, as safely for the environment, going to be emptying out the dammed off area. So I don't think there's much that crosses over with Title 15 related to this particular topic. So I don't really see anything statute-wise or code-wise that we're dealing with. Any other parts of discussion amongst us that you have concerns about, or any of the Port Wardens?
I just agree with you, Robert.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. I guess I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny the application, Port 2025-0007 Tecumseh Condominium Council of Co-Owners at 312. That's the last time I'm going to say it, even though we have some other voting on that. But I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny. Can I get one?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, Mr. Anderson, thank you. I got a second, I guess, from Mr. McCopp. Thank you very much. All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve the motion, Port 2025-00007 Tecumseh Condominium Council Co-Owners, please state aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, Mr. Lerner, I got an aye out of you, I believe.
Aye, yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so that was unanimous. All right, so the motion passes. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, so there's one more, we can move forward to the next section, which is miscellany, and normally it's just, is there anything else for the good of the order? But there is a discussion that we're gonna have. I'm curious if Madeline, is there any guest, especially the alderman, Russ, if any alderman is in the gallery or in the video, is there anyone in here related to the safe harbor harbor line discussion happening at city council?
No, there's no one else in the attendee list.
Okay, all right, all right. So you guys, we just got this last minute. Again, we otherwise try to get all notifications and or letters related to a topic the day prior, but we had some amendments to our agenda anyway that occurred. In this in particular, the timing is weird because this is coming from, and Carrie, correct me at any point, this is coming from a city council that is, I guess, been asked to alter the harbor lines by an entity. It's already had first reading. Evidently, it might have already gone to environmental, or it was going to environmental. It hasn't gone to environmental.
No, yeah, it's not going to go to environmental matters until I think Mike said July 10th is when they
Okay.
meet.
All right, but it is moving forward. Eventually it will come to us, right? But it's not really coming as an application, right? And there's a lot of interesting stuff here. And again, our job, just like our job is not to enforce, our job is not necessarily to define too much. It's to help maybe with gray areas when it comes to things like harbor lines, because there's two types of harbor lines. There's like the absolute harbor lines. There's the ones that are, I can't remember the terminology, the definition.
Provisional.
Right, provisional. There is some interesting elements, and it's parts I've read. There are parts of 15, with Title 15, that are truly defined and altered by the city, and there are parts where we do have some, not we, but there's some say into, you know, elements of it that belong to federal waters or belong to, like, there's other entities related to this, not just the desire of city council. At that being said, it is the city council's decision, and it's our job to apply what they've decided into the decisions we make. So that's fine. Whether something's a good decision or a bad decision is interesting, and we have to sort of, I guess, be a part of the conversation. But net, it is going to be city council that decides this. So the harbor line, there's some parts that are opinion, and that at this point a fair amount is opinion. To me, harbor line has been sacrosanct. It's what we judge everything from, right? That's our basis rule, is lateral line and harbor line, right? We also don't live in Fort Lauderdale, where everything is straight and the same width, right? We use the things like 25% out from the shoreline, but we have coves and curves and turns, right? We have crevices and we have areas. And so there's oftentimes thinking of some people connecting the dot, but removing a cove, right? Because if you connect a dot from one end of a cove to another, you've removed the cove from publicly accessible water, right? Because that's what riparian right is the ability not to restrict people from navigating on navigable water. That's a federal law, but we're giving the right for someone to build a permanent structure, which again removes the navigable component of it. So when a paddleboard or a kayak or one of those guys are trying to stay out of the way of the main thoroughfare, those little cove areas are a nice, safe harbor for them. No pun intended. So I don't know. I mean, these are going to be interesting stuff to discuss. And we all, you know, I don't know how much say we have. I don't think I'm not advocating one thing or another. I love safe harbor. I happen to be involved with so as a boater, I enjoy them. I think they do a fabulous job. So it has nothing to do with them. It's the question of what we're going to be dealing with as if we open it that where everyone who can get to someone from city council and have city council change, how much harbor line will we have? How much will it be a straight highway versus crevices and cracks off the highway or safe areas off the highway? Because that is part of our charge with title, is the safety of the use of our waters. Am I wrong? Or
No, the objective from this ordinance is just to vote on whether we endorse it, I guess.
I don't at this point we haven't been asked to do anything. I didn't get even notice that this was going until about probably a week prior to when the first time it came. And you know, I'd love to talk to the alderman. I guess I can call him, but I don't want to have an ex post facto. Like, I don't want to talk about this without it being sort of open and public. And that's hence this is an interesting. You know, again, I'm not, and nor am I'm not saying, you know, that one thing is better than the other. I'm just wondering what our role is. I'm glad Chris here. What, Scott? We lost you. Go ahead, Harold. Yeah, anyone, please speak.
A couple of items. First question, Carrie, do we have the authority to change a harbor line?
No.
Okay. Second item, and I want to say this, make sure this is on the record because I don't think the council, and I don't know how it came about that Safe Harbor talked to the council and asked them to do this, but we have to look back for a moment at their original application and the application that was approved for that 6th Street. If you recall, we were going to put the dock out and it was going to go in a certain place. That was changed by their request, and that dock is shifted to the far right, I guess it's west, to the property adjacent to 6th Street, away from Safe Harbor. That was what we gave them in return for their access. They are now, looks like they are asking for more. We already made the deal. And therefore, if this is what they're asking to change the harbor line, then I would like to make the motion, if it comes up, to readdress that dock on 6th Street to move it back to where it was originally proposed in the center.
Okay, so
I don't know if that's something.
Yeah.
You cannot do that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So let me just give some background so that everyone's on the same page. The ordinance has been introduced on first reader before the city council. So that means the ordinance belongs to the city council. It has officially been referred to the Port Wardens for a recommendation as to the ordinance. And so you guys, the purpose of this discussion is to reach a consensus on what you want to do. You have 3 options. You can, I guess maybe 4. You can recommend that the city council adopt the ordinance. So you can make a favorable recommendation. You can make an unfavorable recommendation. You can make a favorable recommendation subject to conditions, or you can take no position and stay out of it. Now, I really hate the fact that I'm about to give legal advice on camera because it sort of destroys the sanctity of attorney-client privilege. But this letter, I want you to pay attention to the letter that came in. It mentions, and you have to keep in mind that there's an appeal right now for that application that is in the circuit court. And the letter says that if this ordinance is passed, they will drop that appeal. And what sort of impact, because there's an appeal of your decision that's before the court, what sort of impact you making a recommendation, favorable or unfavorable, could have on public perception, since this ordinance is sort of directly tied to a decision that you guys made that's currently being appealed.
Am I wrong? But if that weren't a lawyer, wouldn't that be blackmail? Like they're saying,
No.
Oh, yeah,
No,
I mean,
no, because I don't.
But
I don't know about the
Mary's
conversations
the
that
lawyer.
Alderman
Yeah.
Arnett had that resulted in this legislation being introduced, but it would not be let's
Okay.
not let's not go that far.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm certainly not. I just find it odd that that but again,
I don't think
I
any
agree with you.
intentions
We're
were
not
pure.
I mean, let's talk about the concept of the harbor line. You know, isn't the harbor line defining what belongs to the residents and boaters of the city of Annapolis and the state of Maryland? Right? It's a area defined where no permanent structure can go. Right?
Mhm.
Is there any if I were to buy, Carrie, if I were to say I want a longer driveway, and I tell the city I want a longer driveway by cutting into the road, right? And that's how I'm going to make my driveway longer, is just simply carve out a little bit of my road. Because that's effectively what happens when a private entity gains greater riparian right than they've already been defined as having. I just, I feel like, is there, yeah, I mean, again, we want to encourage bigger boats. We want to encourage all our marinas are super vital to Annapolis. I'm all about profit, trust me. But I worry about us changing the nature of the boating in the primary creeks where we manage if we keep just going to straight lines because there's a straight line between two moorings and I'm sorry, and dock ends, and then we just reduce all the crevices that we have throughout all of our creeks, which again is what's the title cheat sheet for us and safety and navigation, and allowing or encouraging boating. Let me find it. But it is that's the one consideration I have, and this would go for anything: a condo community, a marina, a private, a private owner. Like we're giving up something that belongs to all, right? Isn't the city giving a piece? I mean, are they getting compensated for it?
I think
I don't
it's
know.
if you look at the exhibit that was sent or with the ordinance, it doesn't clearly indicate, but it looks like there's a possible, like I would think, a one-to-one swap. So at the end of 6th Street, there's a rectangle, and then there's the triangle out in the channel of Back Creek. I think it's a swap, but I'm not clear on that, and that's just a guess.
Here's another question I have about that. I happen to take a picture a couple different times over the past 5 months. And I can share the pictures if you guys would like to see as well. It looks like to me their mooring piles are actually on the lateral line. Right now, that may be grandfathered in. In other words, it doesn't appear like a setback. I could be wrong because it's such a zoomed in image.
So that topic of discussion is getting way off course.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're talking about where a proposed change would be the mooring walls, or if you're talking about the ones that are close to where the 6th Street Pier would be. But those, either way, it's sort of outside the realm of discussing this proposed ordinance, and is more because you're kind of talking more along the lines of an application had been submitted.
Well, no, and I apologize. Mike, I thought you were referring to the space that they're defining as relinquishing on 6th Street. Is that what you were referring to?
Correct.
So where are the mooring balls we're talking about, Carrie? I'm sorry, I don't know what you.
I don't know. You started talking about mooring balls, and and so, but I think I don't, and I could be wrong. I don't necessarily look at. I looked at the 2 blue lines, and I think that's what Mike is talking about towards the bottom of the map. I look at those as like, I don't know what that second line is, but one of them is a lateral line. I don't know that that's a change to the harbor line, a proposed change to the harbor line.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure. My understanding is just that change sort of at the top right of the map where it has the proposed harbor line sort of identified. It doesn't have that same identifier at the bottom left part where the blue lines are. So I don't think that that's a proposed amendment to the harbor line.
Yeah,
Okay.
after taking another look at it, I think I'm in agreement with you, Carrie. My in previous experience, I was involved with a swap for channel and riparian rights, and it was a one-to-one swap for another property actually on Back Creek. So, you know, I think this discussion is healthy, and obviously there's probably a lot of questions that need to be answered. And just to circle back on Carrie's four choices for voting, or we all got this yesterday, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I think it might be prudent to not vote tonight. It's entirely up to you. I mean, it sounds like, there are some questions that we can get answers to, and be more in tune with the proposal.
It might also be good to hear from Ross Arnett as well. I think that's really smart to just postpone anything with the ordinance until we get some more information. The other thing I think we should also think about is just being consistent as we look at these things. We are, beholden to Title 15. And so when we look at moving a harbor line, it shouldn't matter what the legal situation is. We should be looking at it as a navigation issue. And does moving that harbor line cause a navigation issue? Personally, I think it does. That part where they're moving it in safe harbor on that dock, it's right around this bend in the river, and so you can connect the dots, but you're really cutting off one side of a bend that's pretty important for boats navigating. So I think we should look at it through that lens.
I agree with Jonathan. I think at the end of the day, what we might want to do is recommend that this matter be put in front of us with those interested parties, because we do have, from our experiences, some input that might be valuable to the council before they vote yay or nay. I think that would really, that would be our recommendation, that we should have them refer to us, for our opinion.
That's what this is, Harold. The council referred it to you guys for your opinion. So that's why this is in front of you right now.
Then we should go ahead and have
when is the next phase, Carrie? So if they've done first reading, how many more? I'm not a city council expert at all. So what is the next element?
So the next element is it has to go before the environmental matters meeting, which is going to be July 10th. And so then it'll go at, I believe, July 14th is the next city council meeting. And that'll go for public hearing on July 14th. And then July 28th is when it would be up for second and potentially third reader. So if you guys were to postpone to your next meeting, which I believe is July 22nd, right? There's about a week's time in between you guys meeting and getting your recommendation to council before they vote on the ordinance to pass or not pass it. So there's a little bit of time there, if my timeline is correct. I say that with a sort of caveat of sometimes they may want to suspend the rules of the meeting at the public hearing meeting. So there is that potential. I have no idea if that's the intention of the sponsor or anyone else on the council. But if things sort of track as they normally do, by postponing a decision on recommendations tonight, you still have that ability to meet next month and get a recommendation in before the council prior to their final decision-making authority.
And their final decision-making date would be, just again for review, I'm sorry.
If things were to track as legislation normally does, it would be July 28th. But sometimes the council will suspend the rules or will, and speed up that timeline. So there is that possibility. It's not something they do frequently, so I have no clue if that's even something that anyone is thinking about, but it is something that has been done in the past.
I would hope that they wouldn't do that, that they would want a Port Warden's opinion. And I think Alderman Arnett should have been here tonight to talk about it. And I hope that we can talk about it at our next meeting before it comes in front of the council. And I hope that they think that the Port Warden's opinion matters when they come to a vote, frankly.
So they referred it to you guys for a reason. That's not
Yeah, but not, they could have referred it a little earlier.
Well,
seems like we're under the gun a little bit here.
Not really. So keep in mind, it did not pass on first reader until June 16th. So about a week ago. The referral email did not come out, and to me, I didn't receive it until Friday the 20th. I was off on Friday. So I saw it yesterday on Monday. Mike just got back from vacation himself yesterday on Monday. We acted as quickly as we could. I think if Alderman Arnett was aware that this was being discussed tonight, he would be here. But so things did sort of move in a fast track to get it before you guys tonight, but that doesn't mean that you have to make a decision tonight either. There's still that possibility of, at the next meeting, Alderman Arnett will certainly be made aware. I'm sure Mike or Kimberly or myself, someone will let him know. He would, I'm sure, be happy to come and speak on it. He's been at meetings before where he's spoken on legislation. I would be willing to say that he just probably was not aware that this was occurring tonight because the agenda was amended about 24 hours prior to.
Yeah. And so thank you for that, Carrie. I'm just reading the email that I received. I read yesterday. And it's from the office of the city clerk. And they have some rough timelines and dates on here. And basically the 021-25 Safe Harbor lines doesn't look like it's going to the Environmental Matters Committee until September 11th.
Oh.
So, I mean, there are a bunch of different dates on here, but that's the only one for that Safe Harbor. So,
wasn't it supposed to go in front of the Maritime Advisory Board? I thought I saw a
It's
note.
been referred, yes. So it's been referred to you guys, Maritime Advisory Board, and the Environmental Matters Committee.
Okay, and Maritime Advisory, do you know when the next, I can look it up, the Maritime Advisory Board.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
I don't know, and I don't see that listed in this email. So,
okay.
So I guess point being is it seems like there's probably some time to
Thanks for pointing that out, Mike. Maybe the Environmental Matters meeting for July has been canceled or something like that. The council and their standing committees don't meet in August. Yeah. So if Environmental Matters isn't meeting until September 11th, I just looked it up, then that buys you even more time. What I can do is I can verify with Kaylin tomorrow that it's not going to be on the agenda for whatever reason for Environmental Matters until September, and let you guys know. But I think even if it is on the agenda for Environmental Matters on the 10th of July, you still have the ability to meet and decide at your, gosh, what did I say? The 22nd, whatever meeting in July that you guys have.
Okay.
And I think we ought to get Ross at that meeting.
Yeah, I'm sure. Sorry, my phone was messed up and I was offline for a minute. But has anybody raised the issue of precedence? It's right there in the city's letter. The presence of passing that legislation, so other marinas want bigger slips, so they just ask for a variance.
The slippery slope worry, basically.
Yeah. I mean, we're the one that's going to have to deal with it at the end, right? If that happened.
Well, listen, Alderman can do anything he wants for a constituent. If he says he wants to push it through, he has the ability to override us, so to speak.
Well, then, we got to give our 2 cents regardless of what our decision might be.
Jonathan, you,
I was just going to say it's an election year, so there's a legislative deadline where the aldermen have to get all their ordinances in reviewed, and so I'm sure they're pushing to get stuff done, and that's probably why this is rapidly on our desk. Um, so, but I agree with you, Scott. I mean, this is a heck of a precedent to set.
And you know, Mayor Gavin Buckley's letter dated June 11th of this year is not in favor of it. From the way I'm reading it anyway, he brings up some very important points.
I'm sorry, Scott, are you reading the staff report that was written by the acting harbor master to Mayor Buckley?
Staff report on proposed legislation to Mayor Gavin, sorry, yes, to Gavin Buckley, yes. And it's from Victoria Buckman, acting city manager.
I would probably, I want more information. I don't want to give a favorable or unfavorable until I think we talk to the aldermen who prepared this, and we talk to someone from the harbor master. They're the ones who have to enforce this stuff. They're the ones who have to deal with when navigation doesn't work and there's dangerous situations. If there would be one, I'm not saying there would. You know, there's all this balance going on between we want our marinas are vital and we love all of them, but we also need to make sure the people who actually leverage the waterway also can leverage the waterway. And so I think there's a lot that go into this. And at this point in time, I sort of want more. I mean, I just got the title, I think, in the first email that Carrie got. Actually, I didn't get that. I didn't even see the actual what was presented. I only saw that it got first reading on the 20th. And what, we're the 24th now? So it's not exactly much time. It wasn't until I got the email from Mike this morning that actually had or it might have been 2 days ago, that had what was put in front of city council. At least that was the first time I noticed receiving. So I feel like I need more time, and I can double check into I'm hoping that environmental committee meeting is later, and I can also inquire with I won't discuss the topic, but I can just inquire with Lomax if the Maritime Advisory Board is also looking at it.
So I'll check with Kaylin tomorrow about Environmental Matters Committee. She's a city council associate, so she'll be able to confirm when it's going to be on the agenda for the Environmental Matters Committee. Okay. And with all due respect to the Maritime Advisory Board, that when they consider it, it doesn't really matter to you guys, okay. Because the timeline that you guys have to sort of follow is the council and their standing committees. I'm sure Maritime Advisory Board is meeting within the next 30 days, so they'll be taking it up. But you don't necessarily have to hinge your decision making on meetings and whatnot around what the Maritime Advisory Board's meeting schedule is.
I know, but
that's not to say not to reach out to them, but
they have a good understanding of marinas and or needs of slips and things like that. Like, they bring an interesting perspective. If one of them were to appear when we hear it, it could be useful to us.
Okay. Yeah. So if you want their insight, I don't necessarily recommend having a conversation with the chair about that topic. Okay. That doesn't, I mean, it can be, not that I necessarily endorse this either, but there could be a potential joint meeting between both Maritime Advisory and Port Wardens to consider it sort of all together. That could be a little bit of an administrative headache, though. But if you were to have a conversation with the chair and say, if anyone from your, if you guys have decided it, made a recommendation and you guys want to present on it at our Port Wardens meeting, you're more than welcome to. You could certainly do that. Okay.
We can invite them to the meeting, right?
Yeah, I just wouldn't have a conversation about the topic.
Gotcha. Okay. No,
I don't think that Either way, I don't think the bottom line at this point, we can make a recommendation
I agree.
to approve it. I don't think we can make the recommendation to approve the change they want. That doesn't mean we don't approve it, but I don't think we can make an motion to
I agree. We
approve
don't have
it.
enough information to make a decision, or to
Sure,
make
yeah.
an approval or a non-approval. Like, I agree. We need more information.
Sounds like we need a motion to postpone.
Well, we
I'll
don't
make
need
a
a
motion to
motion. It was
postpone.
just a discussion anyway, right?
I would make a motion to postpone taking action on 02125.
All right. If that's the case, I'd love a motion from
I'll
someone.
make a vote motion.
Okay. All right, Mr. Anderson.
Second.
All right, a second. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lerner. So we have a motion on the table to postpone any decision or opinion related to the
02125.
say that slowly again for me.
02125 Annapolis Harbor Lines at 422 Chester Avenue on Back Creek.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. All those in favor of postponing? Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you. We've
We've
motion
exhausted
passes.
that.
Yes. All right, Carrie, thank you very much. These are obviously every time I think something's going to be relatively easy, then we need you to make it easier. All right. All right, let's back to our thing. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Fantastic. All right, next regular meeting is July 22nd, 2025. There being no other items on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Mr. Anderson, thank you. I've got a second from Ms. McCobb. Thank you very much. All those in favor of motion to adjourn, please state aye.